NewsX World. Let's take a look at some of the top stories. Sudan Sovereignty Council Chief Abdel Fattah al-Burhan has said that the army is ready for peace talks with parties genuinely seeking peace. He's clarified no talks are ongoing as of now with external parties and insisted the army does not target tribes or regions. Young Moroccans protest for the release of detained Gen Z demonstrators pushing for social reforms, while King Mohammed IV has urged better education and healthcare but did not mention the movement. Despite fewer participants, protesters have said that they remain mobilized. At least 3 Indian nationals have died and 5 remain missing after a launch boat capsized off of Beira port in Mozambique during a crew transfer operation. 5 others have been rescued, with 1 receiving medical care. Search and rescue operations are still ongoing. According to reports, 14 Indians were on board. Colonel Michael Randrianirina, who led a military coup in Madagascar, has been sworn in as president this week, vying to restore democratic governance. In his inaugural address, Randrianirina has promised new elections within 2 years and pledged to rebuild the nation's governance system in line with its people's aspirations. South Sudan's People's Defense Forces have released child soldiers in Western Equatoria as part of ongoing efforts to end child recruitment, according to the UN mission in South Sudan. Brigadier Akesh Makar and DDR officials have vowed to monitor the children's reintegration into civilian life. South African ICJ lawyer Ziad Patel has urged global action to enforce the ICJ's provisional measures against Israel, calling for sanctions, divestment, and an end to military cooperation with institutions complicit in Palestinian land seizures, stressing that real changes requires political will, domestic legislation, and international solidarity. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has declared that the war in Gaza will not end until Hamas fully disarms and the territory demilitarizes. His statement comes as Hamas handed over the remains of 2 hostages yesterday. Meanwhile, Israel has announced that the Rafah border crossing with Egypt will remain closed until Hamas hands over the bodies of deceased hostages. However, the release of all 20 living hostages has been completed, as the U.S. alleges Hamas plans to violate the ceasefire, while Netanyahu and Palestinian authorities continue to trade blame. Now we start with Sudan. Sudan Sovereignty Council head Abdel Fattah al-Burhan has said that the army is ready for talks to end the war and restore Sudan's unity and dignity, but only with parties who are genuinely seeking peace. Speaking in Atbara while offering condolences to fallen officer, he has stressed that no negotiations are ongoing as of now with the quartet, which includes US, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, UAE, or any other external party. Al-Burhan has insisted the army does not target tribes or regions, stating that they will keep fighting the enemy wherever they are found. Recent clashes in the Kordofan and Darfur states have killed tens of thousands and displaced millions, while the RSF's territorial control has significantly declined. The war continues, with both sides accusing each other of the attacks on civilians and tribal leaders. Now for this discussion, we're joined by Dr. Levi Naidoo. He's a political analyst, joins us live from Johannesburg. Thank you very much, Doctor, for joining us. Welcome to NewsX World. Now, looking at this news, what's the situation like, and how much of the power or any impact does this Al-Burhan's statements hold?
Good day to you, and good day to the listeners at home. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
It's crucial that there should be peace in that part of the world, and indeed in Sudan. Paul Mashatile, the Deputy President of South Africa, visited Sudan last week. And part of the reasons he visited that area was to be part of the team that is to negotiate peace processes. It is encouraging to note that the army in Sudan and indeed the council is talking about the peace process. If you look at the history, over 20,000 people, then it could be more, have died because of this conflict. Over 14 million citizens are displaced because of this conflict. Lives of women and children have been disrupted because of all this. Everybody, the Sudanese, people in the region, in the eastern part of the region, and indeed the entire continent, would love to see lasting peace in Sudan, and indeed life going back to normality. If you hear these kind of stories from this council, one is encouraged that at the end of the day, there is a possibility for peace to take place. And if there is one area that has always been affected by conflict, which affects humanitarian rights, which affects the vulnerable, it's in this part of the world. And this is indeed very encouraging, and one should see more of this kind of efforts coming into the space, so that at the end of the day, there is indeed peace and stability in Sudan.
Yes, indeed. And also, what does the Sudanese military's position on reconciliation could shape future peace efforts with the countries like UAE, Saudi Arabia, and others?
The stability of Sudan creates stability in the region. The instability in Sudan creates an element of instability as well, and in the region, and a lot of activities are unnecessarily disrupted. When we see families, villages disrupted and disorganized in Sudan, the very same people are displaced, run to the neighboring countries, and that affects those countries very, very seriously in terms of what they should provide as in the source of relief, accommodation, medication, and all the necessary needs that a normal human being would need. So this instability does not only cost the people of Sudan, it also costs the region. It also deals seriously with the health of these people, because obviously, when you are forcefully moved from one area to the other, it has serious implications on your health. It also has serious implications on their social lives, the normal and daily interactions that they should have. It's also seriously affected. And in that way, it also affects the countries where they're running into. The focus of the bodies like the African Union, therefore, has to focus on those countries, because when there is instability and when there is no peace, you need the world bodies to enter. So the focus has to shift on a number of countries, not focusing on development, not focusing on the priorities that they have, but to focus on ensuring that there is peace and stability in Sudan. So it affects a number of people in different ways. And the toll that we are getting from the council appears to be that of bringing peace and stability, and that is indeed what most people will welcome, because what we want to see is peace and stability in all the African countries.
Yes, indeed. And Dr. Nudo, can you tell us a little bit about, as we're running short in time here for this discussion, can you tell us briefly about what's the tribal dynamics and accusation of targeting civilians play in this complicated efforts to reach a national ceasefire?
What becomes a major problem are issues that relate to governance, issues that relate to the inability of the major role players, indeed politicians, to be able to agree on how they should move the country forward. It is about those who want to access power competing amongst themselves on how they're supposed to run the country. Two, it is about the natural resources that are found in the country. And some people want to ensure that they get access to natural resources to benefit themselves alone, whilst others would love to see natural resources benefiting the people at large. And that is the source of the conflict. But poor governance and leadership is another source of the problem. And where there is always a vacuum for proper leadership, this is the kind of situation that we always observe.
Yes. Thank you very much, Dr. Nudu, for sharing that insight. Please stay with us as we come back to you. Now we stay in the region. Young Moroccans reportedly have protested yesterday in front of Parliament, demanding the release of demonstrators detained over recent weeks. A movement known as Gen Z 212 had surprised the usually stable Morocco kingdom in late September. The Moroccan Association for Human Rights has said that some 600 people, including minors, remain detained pending trial on suspicion of joining this movement. Protesters now continue to call for justice and the release of those held. Meanwhile, King Mohammed has recently addressed the nation, urging better improvements in public education and healthcare, which again are the key demands of the Gen Z movement too. But since King Mohammed did not mention the movement directly, it has left many protesters disappointed. Now, following the king's address, the Gen Z collective has still called for peaceful sit-ins as they continue to press for further reforms across Morocco. Since September 27th, the online-based Gen Z 212 collective has led near daily protests, expanding their demands to include anti-corruption measures and government change. Legal action has been taken against people participating in these protests, with some sentenced to prison, including a student who had received a 1-year term, whereas another arrested individual was given 5 years. Now for this discussion, we go back to Dr. Levi Nudu. He's a political analyst, joins us live from Johannesburg. Thank you very much, Dr. Nudu, for staying with us. Dr. Nudu, what more can you tell us about this ongoing Gen Z versus the Moroccan government situation?
There has always been this kind of conflict that has been taking place in Morocco. What we also not forget is that the other sector of society, which has always been struggling for matters that relate to self-determination and independence, which has always been the source of conflict. But also, there is something which is very common about African countries. It's about the suppression of the other group by the other. It is about conflict that relates to access to power. It's about the wealth or the resources that are available in the country. And what we'll always get is that the competition and contestation for the access to power, access to resources, has always been the source of conflict in many African countries. And the zeal, the contestation, the fight towards access to power has always been characterized by conflict and indeed unnecessary wars. And that is the source of the problem that we see in that part of the world. What appears to be the biggest challenge is the inability of those that are the major role players in this kind of conflict to be able to find one another in terms of being able to negotiate and agree on the way forward, on how to take the country forward. And my view is that if you are able to bring people that are in conflict onto the table, we could be able to find a solution to these challenges. And unfortunately, that is one thing that appears to be seriously lacking. You also need to see a lot of involvement from regional bodies like ECOWAS to ensure that where they identify elements of conflict, elements of disagreement, violation of human rights, they should quickly be able to intervene, stem their authority, and ensure that indeed there is peace that has to take place. Otherwise, if our regional bodies are not handy and quick to intervene, we might find ourselves in a situation where conflict continues on a continuous basis, and that has serious negative implications on the lives of the vulnerable, on the running of government, and indeed, there could not be peace and stability in countries that are affected by such.
And Doctor, like you have rightfully mentioned, this rise of Morocco's youth, how do you think, how might this reshape the country's traditionally stable political landscape? And how do you think this could have the effects? What are the potential long-term implications for Morocco's governance and civil liberties, and also focusing on monarchy and public relations here?
It's important to take along the youth in terms of decision-making, especially in government. It's also important to ensure that when you do your plannings, you also involve young people, because these are the people who are in the future. It's also very important to make young people understand the governance, the processes and systems in the different countries, so that these young people are able to get acclimatized to the government systems and processes. What we have observed in Morocco is that young people have decided to stand up against the rulers because, as you know, there is a huge wave of democracy in the global world, and they know the benefits of democracy. And how we still in other countries embrace the issues of monarchy and other systems of government is very important to gradually educate our people about the systems of government and how different countries are structured in terms of governance. Because what they might be worried about are issues of constitutionality, are issues of the law. And if you need to make such changes, the first place to go will be to look at your constitution, make constitutional amendments so that you are able to change the structural issues in that country. So my view is that even though young people can be very strong activists, but they should also be able to utilize legal avenues that are available at their disposal, because that is the root of the challenges that they face in Morocco.
Yes, indeed. Always great learning from you. Thank you very much, Dr. Levi Nido, for joining us as a political analyst from Johannesburg. Now we move on to our next news. At least 3 people have died and 5 are missing after a launch boat with 14 crew members capsized during a transfer operation near Beira port in central Mozambique. The Indian High Commission in Mozambique has now confirmed that all the 14 crew members who were Indian nationals, including the 3 who have passed away. 5 Indian nationals were rescued from the water, with 1 survivor who is currently receiving medical treatment at a hospital in Beira. The incident took place on Friday during a routine crew transfer to a tanker vessel anchored offshore. The cause of the capsizing is still unknown and investigation is underway. The High Commission has expressed condolences Now we move on to our next news. The South African attorney involved in the International Court of Justice case against Israel has urged global action for Palestine. Attorney Ziad Patel has stated that the proposed legislation includes measures such as sanctioning and banning on supporting institutions who are complicit in the confiscation of Palestinian property. Patel has explained that South Africa's complaint against Israel is grounded in the obligations of states under the Genocide Convention. He has added that as a signatory, the Genocide Convention, South Africa feels is compelled to bring the issue to the international stage. He has further noted that before the ICJ proceedings, the matter of Israel had also been referred to the International Criminal Court. The attorney has further explained that the International Criminal Court primarily investigates war crimes and crimes against humanity, while the genocide dimension is pursued through the ICJ. Now for this discussion, we welcome Professor Rohan Gunaratna. He's an international affairs expert, joins us live from Singapore. Thank you very much, Professor. Good to see you. So looking